Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. My name is Kaz, and welcome to a new section I call Kaz Recaps Yakuza. Yakuza, or Ryuga Gotoku, is a Sega game series that has been one of my favorites for a while now. Since I know there are lots of parts and story details, I wanted to recap the story for the games that I have completed at this time. I will start with the chronologically first game, Yakuza 0. This game, while being the 6th game in the series, will hint at events and people seen later, but still contain story that isn't referenced too much. So join me as I spend an overly long time hitting at all the main story points of this prequel game. Our story opens with our hero Kazuma Kiryu beating the crap out of another man. Like all good heroes, he takes his wallet after beating the begging man into unconsciousness. The majority of this game takes place in a district called Kamurocho in Tokyo, Japan. It is also an economic boom for Japan, which explains why there will be a lot of money flying around when you fight people. The year is 1988, and we see Kiryu meet up with a man in a car, as we see that he is working on a debt collection job. After telling him that he's not interested in joining the industry, he walks the streets before fighting a couple goons after his wallet. A man approaches them who is revealed to be his lifelong childhood friend, Akira Nishikiyama, or Nishiki. The two are lower soldiers to the largest subsidiary in the Tojo clan, the Dojima family. Their family captain, Shintaro Kazama, who the two hold in high regard, is currently in prison for an unrelated crime. Although they are more loyal to Captain Kazama, the two must follow the orders of their patriarch, Sohei Dojima. After a night of partying, the two men end up at a ramen restaurant for breakfast. Nishiki notices a special news bulletin reporting a murder, although he only recognizes it because of the victim. Kiryu realizes the victim was the man he beat up earlier. It doesn't make any sense since Kiryu only beat him up and didn't kill him. He then receives word on his pager that he must report to the Dojima family office immediately. Nothing says 80s like pagers. Once he arrives, he is confronted by the 3 lieutenants of the family, Daisaku Kuze, Keiji Shibusawa, and Hiroki Awano. The 3 of them are not happy with Kiryu killing a civilian and want him to turn himself to the police. They feel Captain Kazama might be working behind the scenes and ordered Kiryu to kill the man. Only Shibusawa opposes the theory that there is probably something else going on. Kuze asks the other 2 to leave so that he can have a word in private. He explains that the place the victim was found is referred to as the empty lot. This tiny patch of land is being sought by many real estate brokers, including Dojima himself, as they want it for the revitalization project that will help rebuild Kamurocho. Dojima currently holds most of the properties surrounding the lot, but can't figure out who owns it. He's tasked the 3 lieutenants to bring him the deed to the land. Who's ever successful will be promoted to captain and force Kazama out of the family. Kuze informs Kiryu that he must turn himself in and cut off his pinky before the end of the day. Kiryu's only lead is to speak with the president of the Loan Shark Company, since he ordered the beating. He fights his way through the security and makes it to the head office. The president is scared shitless when Kiryu enters and reveals it was Kuze who ordered the collection there. Kuze surprisingly shows up to have another talk with Kiryu. He offers a deal with Kiryu to spy on Captain Kazama, as he might know who the owner of the empty lot is. Kiryu rejects the offer, and Kuze reminds him that a severed pinky will be the least of his troubles. He leaves and meets up with Nishiki at the Kazama family office. There, we are introduced to Osamu Kashiwagi, Kazama's right-hand man. Kashiwagi knows that Kiryu is innocent, but they have no means to prove it. Kiryu decides the only way to save Kazama is to be exiled from the family and take responsibility for the kill. Hey! Kashiwagi vehemently disagrees, but knows there is no other way. He returns to the Dojima family office and meets up with Kuze. He's pissed off that Kiryu still has his pinky and hasn't turned himself in. Kiryu asks to be expelled from the family instead.
組長に無断で？
てめえは組み抜けたんだろうが。
確かにそうだ。その言葉待ってたぜ。
Kiryu says that since he's no longer part of the Dojima family, he can now approach Kuze as a citizen and kick his ass to see the boss. This amuses Kuze as he leaves the room and lets his men deal with him. After fighting his way through countless soldiers, Kuze himself decides to challenge him. He takes off his jacket to reveal his tattoo of King Yama, and the two start brawling. This is a common trope in the Yakuza series. After a brutal fight, Kiryu is victorious. The two remaining lieutenants come in, escorting Dojima himself. Dojima says that Kuze's expulsion of Kiryu is still in effect and will not retract it. The other two lieutenants gleefully remind Kuze for the failure since Kiryu can no longer be blamed. Now the person accountable for the kill will fall to Kuze, meaning he will be the one who has to cut off his pinky. And he proves his fealty by doing so. Even after all the fighting, Dojima still holds Kazama accountable, since Kiryu was his responsibility. He advises Kiryu to just leave everything alone and live out his days as a normal man, and tells him to leave. Kiryu, defeated, returns to Kamurocho and collapses in the street. He is approached by a man who extends his hand, calling Kiryu by name. He introduces himself as Tachibana, a real estate broker. Tachibana takes Kiryu back to his penthouse overlooking Kamurocho. He offers Kiryu a meal, which he refuses. He then reveals that he knows quite a bit about Kiryu's history. He offers Kiryu a chance to work with him, but Kiryu turns him down. He goes back to his apartment and is soon visited by Nishiki. After filling him in, Kiryu asks if Nishiki has ever heard of the Tachibana company. Nishiki tells him he's heard stories about a shady real estate company that uses dirty tactics to secure properties, like paying the homeless to loiter outside or sending men to intimidate. In the morning, Kiryu tries to find out any more information about the company. He overhears a conversation with a shopkeeper who's dealt with them before. There is a holdout property the company is looking to buy, so Kiryu decides to pay them a visit. Outside the building, he notices a lot of homeless men hanging around the area. He goes to meet the bar owner, who's very scared of the company. He suspects they have paid the homeless to loiter outside and drive business away. The conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door. A few men led by a larger man named Oda step in. He offers a large stack of money to leave the building. The owner refuses, so Oda decides to inform the owner nicely that there is no other offer coming. Kiryu and Oda almost fight, but Oda takes his leave once he notices his job is done. Kiryu turns around and sees the owner scribbling up money, saying he was just holding out for a larger payout. With nothing left to do, Kiryu leaves and sees that all the homeless men have left as well. He tracks down the homeless crew and bribes them with alcohol for more information. They don't know much, but they have worked with the company before. Kiryu asks how to get in contact with them, and they point him in the direction of some properties they have been seen frequenting in a place called the Champion District. Kiryu goes to the Champion District, where he meets some residents who thinks he's with the company and attack him. He tries to say that he's not with them, but they don't believe it since many residents have been harassed by them in the past. Once they're all defeated, Oda arrives. He tells Kiryu that Tachibana wishes to speak with him back at the penthouse. He heads back to the building but is confronted by more thugs. After easily fighting his way through, he gets to the penthouse where Oda is waiting for him. He wants to make sure Kiryu is worth the money and decides to fight him there, which Kiryu wins. Tachibana shows up and reveals the extent of his power by causing a brief blackout in Kamurocho.
登場界が力で光り輝かせるこの街に、私は風穴を開ける人間です。こんな風にね。
なんだと。嘘だろ。
He knows that the city is ripe with money, and to save it from the Yakuza, he needs to get that land. Tachibana reveals that it was Kazama who is helping him do this. Kazama wishes to stop Dojima from becoming any more powerful. He hands Kiryu a watch to prove his connection with Kazama. With this symbol, he is ready to agree to Tachibana's deal and allies himself with the company. We leave Kiryu's story for now, and instead head to a district in Osaka called Sotenbori. This is based off of an actual district called Dotonbori, which is known for the neon lights and massive displays. A cabaret club called The Grand is in full swing. Many rich executives enjoy partying with the pretty hostesses as they spend exorbitant amounts of money. One customer has had a little too much to drink and becomes rowdy and belligerent.
何やってんねんこれこっちは金払っとんねやさガタガタ抜かすね
The manager, a man with an eye patch, handles the situation.
なんなんやお前はあくそーこの危ないなめんなよ
危険ですのでこちらはお預かりいたします
He is able to subdue the drunk man, but instead of getting him arrested, the manager decides to have the executive pay for everyone's tab as a penance. The man agrees.
皆さんがそれでええ言うてくれるんなら
彼を見るとみんなそう言います。キャバレーグランドの支配人真島五郎、蒼天堀の夜の帝王っちゅうやつですわ。
A waiter informs Majima that someone is taking advantage of the comped tabs and is ordering many expensive drinks. When going to confront him, Majima recognizes the customer.
どうしましたなんでもあらへん
He asks him to come to the office to have a talk. We learn that the customer's name is Tsukasa Sagawa of the Omi Alliance. Sagawa is impressed with Majima's work on gaining considerable profits for the Grand and for handling the situation with the drunk man. He continues to tease Majima about him working as a manager, considering how good he is. We find out that Majima only wants to return to the Tojo clan, and is doing this as some sort of punishment. We learn that Sagawa is watching after Majima and will report his profits to his sworn brother Futoshi Shimano, the head of the Shimano family of the Tojo clan. Sagawa decides to increase the amount owed, angering Majima, who is powerless to do anything. He asks him if he's ready to kill to get back in. Majima is unsure and doesn't respond. Sagawa also informs Majima that the most popular girl will be going to another club just to make his earnings even more difficult. With their best hostess gone, Majima heads to the club Odyssey to coax any other hostesses to join his club. He sees that this club is definitely not doing as well as he is. The manager, Yamagata, recognizes him, but the two of them are able to come to a deal. Majima returns to his home. Looking out his window, we see that he is constantly being watched by seemingly random people in the city. He knows that these are his prison guards, who will report his position at all times. We have brief flashes about how Majima ended up in this position. We learn that there was a hit on a rival family's executive that cost him his eye, and a sworn brother, Taiga Saijima, was sent to prison. After being tortured in a Yakuza prison they refer to as the Hole for over a year, he was finally released and expelled. We will find out much more about this later on in the series. When he goes to work, Sagawa calls him to meet him at a roadside food stand. He seems to be more friendly than usual and is trying to get Majima to relax. He informs him that Shimano wants him to kill, but if he is successful, Majima will be welcomed back into the family. The hit is on someone named Makoto Makimura. Makimura is someone who kidnaps poor immigrants and college girls and forces them to work in prostitution ring. Majima will be able to locate him by visiting a telephone club and arranging a date with a particular girl. The next day, Majima goes to the telephone club and scores a date with a girl named Ako, who fits Makimura's choice in women. On the date, Majima is surprised to hear Ako speak rather highly of Makimura. She doesn't seem like someone who is forced into prostitution. Makimura has helped many women who are in dangerous situations, including Ako herself. He seems to be looking for someone with a bat tattoo on his arm. She lets Majima know where he can meet him at his acupuncture clinic, to which Majima immediately goes to confront him. He breaks into the clinic and sees no one inside. While snooping around, he sees a photo of Makimura, who is a beefy man with the nickname God Hands. He is soon interrupted by his assistant, a blind woman, entering the clinic. He's able to calm her down by pretending he's a client who just wandered in. During the massage, Majima takes time to ask the assistant about her boss. She also confirms that Makimura seems to be a good person. The man has also saved her life, but from a dangerous situation as well. Later, completely relaxed, he falls asleep, only to be woken by someone else entering the room. The man opens the curtain to greet Majima, but instantly realizes that he is not to be trusted. The two men try to ready themselves for a fight without alerting the assistant. Makimura sends her out for a short errand so the two can fight undisturbed. As soon as she leaves, they begin. They fight for a bit, but stop as another group of Yakuza enter. The group addresses the man as Wen Hai Lee and asks where Makoto is. The man tries to say that he's Makoto, but is interrupted once his assistant returns. He tells her to run, saying her name, but is shot by the Yakuza. Majima realizes that Makoto Makimura is the assistant all along. The Yakuza take her away, and Majima is ready to fight them all to claim his bounty. After taking them all down, he is able to rescue Makoto. They're able to sneak through the city, avoiding more Yakuza until they come to an empty alley. Makoto collapses, tired and terrified, wondering why these men are after her. We return to the story of Kiryu and his search for the owner of the empty lot. Since it is his first day as a real estate agent for the Tachibana company, Nishiki takes Kiryu to his shop so he can buy a new suit and appear less threatening. He changes his outfit to a new white suit and goes to meet Oda. At the cafe, Oda gives Kiryu a pair of glasses to appear less threatening. The meeting is with a man named Yamanoi, who needs squatters removed from one of his buildings. The tenant is backed by a Yakuza faction and refuses to leave. The two men visit the building, intending to start out nicely with a generous offer and a gift box. The squatter is not convinced and demands the two to leave. Oda expected this outcome as a motive to draw out the Yakuza protecting him. They are soon confronted by the group of them. The two men easily win as they promise they will be back with more men. The squatter is now convinced to leave and pack up his stuff. Oda tells Kiryu to give Yamanoi the news while he will go to Tachibana with the payments. This leads to a separate real estate minigame where Kiryu helps Yamanoi buy up properties of Kamurocho from some shady billionaires. It doesn't have much effect on the main story, amazingly, so I will skip it for now. Kiryu goes to the bar Serena to meet up with Oda. Inside, he's surprised to see Nishiki sitting at the bar. Coincidentally, he happens to be a regular there and knows the bartender Reina very well. They chat for a while, and Oda finally stumbles in. He is severely beaten and collapses in the doorway. A lot more Yakuza follow him, including Awano, whose faction is revealed to be backing the tenant. Awano, surprised seeing Kiryu there, says that he would have left him alone, but since he had to interfere with his business, he must act. Nishiki is ordered to remain sitting, and Awano tells his men to fight Kiryu outside, not to make a mess of the bar. After the fight, Awano is impressed with Kiryu's victory and has a word with him. He wants Kiryu to set up a meeting with Tachibana so they can negotiate. As expected, Kiryu refuses, so Awano threatens that he will put a target on Kiryu's back and that not even prison will be able to save him. On top of that, Nishiki and anyone else who's ever allied with him, past or present, will suffer. He gives Kiryu till the next morning to make his decision. Back in Serena, the three men discuss their next step while Reina treats Oda's wounds. Oda calls Tachibana and warns him of the coming threat so that he can go into hiding. Kiryu decides to leave by himself to put some distance between him and all of his friends. Not sure where to go, Kiryu ends up back at the empty lot, where Tachibana unexpectedly greets him. He tells Kiryu that there is definitely more going on. Kuze may not even be the culprit behind the frame-up. He asks that Kiryu just try his best to lay low and try to survive for another day so he can pinpoint the owner of the land, as he is close to finding him. Kiryu heads back home to wait. The next day, the time for Kiryu to make a decision concerning the lot has passed. In a meeting with the three lieutenants, Awano calls Dojima to get permission for the family to hunt Kiryu down. It's also shown that Kuze is now taking orders from Awano due to his previous failures. All the families have been called into action, including the Kazama family, to which Kashiwagi reluctantly agrees. Kiryu heads out to the city only to find it crawling with many Dojima family members looking for him. Much like John Wick, there seems to be assassins everywhere. He finds his way to an exotic dance club where a dancer approaches him. She seems to know of his situation and offers to hide him in the club. The club has access to the sewer so he can sneak around the city without drawing suspicion. Kiryu thanks her for her help and promises to come back as a customer. As soon as he's out of earshot, she says that's not gonna happen. Kiryu runs through the sewers until he is approached by Kuze on a motorbike. Kuze is just a little bit angry with him. Although he took a direct hit with an iron pipe to his forearms, Kiryu's arms have healed him enough to fight against Kuze. The two have another brutal fight with Kiryu being the victor. Kuze waits for the killing blow, but he refuses. Kuze threatens that the only way to get him to really stop is to end his life, but Kiryu lets him know that he will be ready to beat him every time he tries. He makes it to the end of the sewer and goes into an unknown club that has its lights and music blaring. Unexpectedly, there is no crowd, just Awano and a pretty woman dancing by themselves. Awano tries to get Kiryu to dance, but he goes to leave. The lights are then shut off, and Awano instead now offers him a proposal. He explains that he entered the Yakuza simply to have power and status, and subsequently got swept up in the glitz and glamour. He promises that if Kiryu simply hands over Tachibana, he will guarantee the easy, luxurious life for Kiryu, and he will never be bothered by any of the Dojima family again. Kiryu is insulted by the offer and immediately rejects it. Awano, angered by this, shoots the dancer. He tells Kiryu that he's got dozens of soldiers outside it and offers the deal one more time. Kiryu still declines, saying he'd rather die than join with Awano. He goes up the steps and opens the door to reveal... no one. Awano was bluffing as he sits on the dance floor, lamenting, "You cannot negotiate with an idiot." Nishiki drives up in a car, saying he can get Kiryu out of the city. Without any hesitation, he jumps in, and the two drive off. Out in the middle of nowhere, the two take a smoke break.
よく味わって据えよ、兄弟。そいつがお前の。
He sobs this is the only way that Kiryu doesn't have to suffer the wrath of the Dojima family. Kiryu accepts his fate and tells Nishiki to use his death as means to climb the ladder and get the respect he so deserves. Nishiki is unable to shoot Kiryu and instead collapses, realizing that without him, he'll be nothing. He tries to ally himself with Kiryu, but he declines, saying he can't put any more people in danger. He takes Nishiki's car and heads back to Kamurocho, totally stranding him out in the middle of the woods. That's a bit of a dick move there. We return to the story of Majima. We immediately see that he didn't go through with the killing and instead takes Makoto into an old storeroom. He asks her why the Yakuza are after her, but she doesn't know any more than him and is just confused and scared. Makoto asks him his name, but Majima doesn't answer and instead confesses that he's a hitman who failed at his job. She wants to know if Lee is okay, and Majima is convinced he's alright since bullets wouldn't stop someone as big as him. He tries asking her some questions, but she tells him to go ask Lee instead if he's okay, and she doesn't fully trust him yet. Majima agrees to track him down and tells her to stay put in the room. Can only hope there's a bathroom in that area. Outside, we see Yamagata, the manager of the Odyssey, is letting Majima use the old storage room as a special favor. Yamagata tells him to check out a cabaret club when he gets the chance so he can see the new business that's on the rise. Much like Kiryu, this leads to an interesting minigame side story that involves Majima helping a struggling business become the #1 club in the district. It also doesn't have that much effect on the main plot, so I will skip over that as well. Majima heads back to the clinic to look for any clues to see what happened to Lee. He sees that the place is still destroyed, but Lee's body is gone. He hears someone come in, and he ambushes him. A small man who tells him in broken Japanese that he's a doctor and is here to just get clothes for Lee. The doctor treated his wounds the previous night, and Lee is currently resting at a mahjong parlor. Majima goes inside to find a bandaged but standing Lee, who seems to be expecting him. They play for a bit when a few men burst in, and Lee wants to see if Majima can be trusted. How beating everyone up will earn him his trust is beyond me. After his victory, Lee decides to tell him his story. When Makoto first came to Japan, she was alone, and an easy target for the shadier groups of the underworld. Someone who had a bat tattoo gained her trust and sold her to a human trafficking ring. Being kept in horrible conditions, she became blind from the trauma. Lee was able to rescue her as she reminded him of his late daughter. This doesn't help either situation since neither one knows why the Yakuza want her now. Before he leaves, Lee tells Majima he does have a plan to get the Yakuza off their case, but does not elaborate because of how risky and ugly it will be. Majima agrees to the plan for now. He tells Lee that he will treat him at the club if he visits. He returns to Makoto and lets her know that Lee is safe. They start to bond because of their similar situations, with both of them having their eyesight affected from traumatic events. Makoto begins to cry, and Majima decides to get her some takoyaki to help cheer her up. After they finish eating, he sees that Makoto is wearing a watch, and wonders why she is, if she is blind. She explains that the watch used to chime but is broken now. She keeps it to remind herself that one day she will be able to see again, as Lee believes this is only a traumatic blindness and she will be able to recover. Feeling the hopelessness of the situation, unfortunately, she grows frustrated and decides to remove the watch, saying it's pointless to keep it now. Majima takes the watch before he leaves. When he returns to the club, he is informed a guest wishes to speak with him. The guest turns out to be the same Chinese doctor he ran into earlier. The doctor delivers a message that Lee is ready to meet up. Majima leaves the club but is soon ambushed by the same Yakuza from the previous night. After the fight, Sagawa shows up, wondering why Majima is fighting a mob outside his club. He's able to dodge the questions for now and leaves. After getting back to the hideout, Majima sees Makoto is holding an envelope, which Lee has told her only he can open. Inside, there are photographs of a random girl who shares a resemblance to Makoto. Lee returns with some food. He gives Makoto a drink before answering any of Majima's questions. Lee explains that the woman in the photo is a black widow who marries rich men and they all mysteriously die. Makoto soon passes out, and Lee confirms he drugged her so she doesn't hear the rest of the plan. The two will kill her and brutally destroy her face, but use her uniform to help disguise the hit. She's a bad person, so that totally justifies it. Majima knows that this plan will not work the way Lee thinks it will. The Yakuza will know something is up with the unusual condition of the body, so he declines Lee's offer. Unfortunately, he says he can't let Majima leave knowing the whole plan, and the two prepare to fight. With nothing to interrupt them this time, Majima ends up prevailing. Lee begs him to reconsider, saying that there isn't any other option. Majima refuses, saying he will not kill, as there is no coming back from that dark path. Odd that he wants to be in a business completely built around killing people. He decides to take the supplies and photos and sits in a park for a while, contemplating the next move. The next day, Majima returns to the Grand, but is immediately stopped by his floor manager, letting him know that Lee called him and needs to meet right away. Majima leaves the floor manager in charge yet again and goes to meet Lee. It's a wonder he hasn't been fired from this job yet. He heads to the clinic and finds Lee in a very good mood. He asks Majima when did he have the guts to go through with the plan. On the news, Majima sees that the girl Lee picked out was found dead. Everything happened exactly as Lee planned, with the body dressed and the face disfigured. He even confirmed the identity as Makoto when the police called him in. Majima is shocked and Lee is confused, wondering who else could have known about the plan. The phone rings and the caller asks for Majima. The caller asks him if he liked his present. Majima is angered and demands to know the identity of the caller, but instead he tells him that he can be found at the Grand right now as he is enjoying himself. Once he gets back to the Grand, he runs into the same group of goons he previously fought. This time they step aside and say their patriarch is waiting. The whole club is completely empty, with all the hostesses around one man in a red suit. The man has booked the entire club for himself so that he and Majima can have a private chat. After sending the hostesses away, he reveals his name is Homare Nishitani, and he's the patriarch of the Kijin clan, another division of the Omi Alliance. He helped out with the plan in order to force Majima to hand over Makoto in exchange for the murder well done. Majima just wants to know why he wants Makoto. Nishitani, who seems to be just a little strange, says he'd rather fight Majima than tell him. A test, as it were. Majima decides not to fight since he is in manager mode, which means he must obey the customer, and they are king. Nishitani is incredibly disappointed and decides to call the police to report himself as a madman trying to rob the club. Now he is no longer a customer, just another psycho waving a knife at him. So Majima reluctantly agrees to fight. The two start brawling, though it seems Nishitani is having too much fun. Majima is victorious, and Nishitani is oddly content. Before he's able to reveal anything, the police show up and arrest him. Since the fight has ended, Majima opens up the club as business as usual. Inside the manager's office, Sagawa is waiting for him. He's curious why Majima didn't call him to tell him the job was done. He also finds it suspicious that he seemed to want people to recognize the body, but then destroyed her face. It's also very peculiar Nishitani just happened to be in the club at that moment. Majima just stands by the job being done, so Sagawa decides to uphold his end of the deal and calls Shimano. Majima knows that Sagawa isn't buying this explanation and will find out the body's a fake soon. He decides to head back to the hideout to warn Lee and get Makoto out of the city. Outside the Grand, the Chinese doctor meets him, letting him know that Lee needs some painkillers, but he hasn't seen him anywhere. Majima says he will deliver the drugs and heads to the hideout. Inside, he gives the drugs to Lee, but he unexpectedly says he doesn't need them. While they're devising an escape plan, the door opens and the Chinese doctor steps in with the 4 watchers we saw previously. The doctor has sold everyone out to the Omi Alliance for a chance at a better life. Rather than paying the doctor, though, the watchers stab him with a crowbar. I didn't even think that was possible. Majima, wanting some payback for the constant surveillance, decides to fight them all by himself. Once they're all defeated, Lee checks on the doctor who is slowly losing consciousness. Lee understands his choices and wants to save him, regardless of his betrayal. He tells Majima to take Makoto back to the clinic as he has a car they can use to get her out. They leave separately so Majima can sneak Makoto through the city and Lee can get the doctor to the hospital. Once they all make it back to the clinic, Lee goes to start the car as Majima and Makoto follow behind. Once he starts the ignition, Sagawa emerges from the smoke lamenting that Majima lied to him. He gloats over his victory a little too long and someone shoots him. A man in a white suit comes and checks in on Makoto, who is still alive. Majima asks for the identity of the man, but is instead knocked out. We return to Kiryu's story. The hunt for him continues as the Dojima family harass any locals for any kind of information at this point. Kiryu returns home to see his apartment is set on fire. He flees before more Dojima goons can find him. He contemplates hiding at the Kazama family office, but Kashiwagi would not be able to grant that request with all the heat he has. A drunk runs into him and starts a commotion, and is able to actually get a cut on him. Fleeing, Kiryu rests in a nearby park, where he unexpectedly runs into Reina. She offers her bar as a place to hide. Kiryu tries to decline, but knows that there isn't any other options for him at the moment. Inside the bar, Reina helps clean his wounds. Kiryu asks if there is any news involving Nishiki, but Reina only saw that he's okay but seems very upset. The rest is interrupted when some Yakuza punks walk in as they were watching the bar. After his fight, he asks Reina to give a pocket watch to Nishiki and tell him not to try avenge his death should he die. Once he steps outside, he sees the street has been blockaded by the 3 lieutenants. Even Kashiwagi and Nishiki are forced to watch at the sidelines. Owano lets him know that this time there's no deal and he just wants Kiryu to be killed. Kuze is still looking for vengeance, steps up and dons a pair of giant brass knuckles. The two have a brutal fight, but Kiryu is still able to emerge victorious despite many soldiers stepping in to help. The numbers are too many and Kiryu is overwhelmed. Kuze is about to administer the finishing blow when a sports car races through the cramped alleyways and hits him. Tachibana is driving and tells Kiryu to get in. He's able to drive the car away as Owano shoots fruitlessly after them. The 2 men are able to lie low in a parking garage. Tachibana admits that the Dojima pressure is much greater than he anticipated, so it's been very difficult to move around. Kiryu begins to lose hope since a lot of innocent people have been dragged into this conflict just because they know him. Tachibana picks up his spirits by admitting that if Kiryu wasn't around, he probably would have failed long ago. Oda shows up in a van, but Tachibana soon passes out.
ご案内します。
どうかしたのか。
Oda decides to take Kiryu to the makeshift hospital room they have been hiding in. It's in a small cramped building in a district nicknamed Little Asia due to the many immigrants from the mainland living there. Oda says that Tachibana's kidneys are failing since he lost his arm battling the Chinese mafia in the past. The area is safe since it's one of the few places the Tojo clan cannot access due to the protection from the triads. The community is able to hide them since Tachibana and Oda both immigrated from China. Oda and Kiryu go to speak with the leader, Elder Chen, in a nearby Chinese restaurant. The Elder is well aware of Kiryu's situation, and cannot permit him to stay because of it. Oda protests, but Tachibana, who left the hospital bed, calls him off, telling him the Elder makes the decisions here, and they are only guests. With nowhere else to go, Tachibana recommends Kiryu goes to the homeless camp in the West Park. It's not much safer, but it'll at least be shelter for the night, and he'll contact him in the morning. At the camp, Kiryu meets with one of the homeless men he met earlier. The man allows Kiryu to spend the night in the shack. This proves to be a very good decision as he is able to defend the community from a bunch of assholes who like to assault the homeless at night. Kiryu meets up with Oda in the morning, and they get into the van and drive outside the city. He tells him they're going to meet up with Tachibana in a special location. Since Dojima has a tight grip on Kamurocho, they need to go above him. Kiryu realizes where they are. It's the main Tojo headquarters. He thinks this is a terrible idea, but Tachibana is already inside bargaining, so it's too late to turn back now. They are approached by two men who escort Kiryu inside. He is taken to a meeting room where Tachibana is speaking with Takashi Nihara, the acting second chairman. Tachibana wants to end the manhunt on Kiryu. He knows that Dojima is next in line for the third chairman if he's able to lead the revitalization project. Securing the empty lot will guarantee that. Dojima will most likely step over Nihara and the other officials, leaving the man practically impotent and forgotten. Nihara is a little insulted by Tachibana's choice in wording. They are interrupted when Oda steps in, carrying a briefcase which he places at Nihara's feet. They will pay Nihara personally 1 billion yen to call off the hit on Kiryu, plus a percentage of the real estate deal once they've secured the empty lot. Nihara accepts the deal and reminds Kiryu that he should remember he's worth 1 billion yen now. Before the three men are able to leave, a group of Tojo thugs confront them. The Tojo clan want to make sure this is a worthwhile deal by having them pass another fight test. Kiryu decides to prove his billion yen worth by taking on a whole group of them by himself. They fight through the grounds and are able to successfully escape. At the Dojima family office, Nihara held up his end of the bargain and Kiryu is no longer to be hunted. Shibusawa promises Dojima that he will deliver the empty lot. Where the other two lieutenants have failed, he will succeed. The three men take a break at the pier. Kiryu comments that it seems odd Tachibana doesn't seem to want the empty lot for a high payout, nor even a position in the Tojo clan. So what exactly does he want? Tachibana refuses to tell him right now, but he will soon, because more importantly, he has found out the owner of the empty lot is in Sotenbori. They can't move there yet since Shibusawa's family has been seen patrolling the area. Tachibana wants to plan more, but Kiryu insists they don't have the time and they need to leave now. Oda agrees and decides to go with him. Since he has to stay in Kamurocho due to his kidneys, Tachibana informs him that the owner is currently being protected by another friendly organization. The owner happens to be a woman with a vision impairment. That's right. The owner of the empty lot is none other than Makoto Makimura. We return to Majima's story. Sagawa is just a little angry about the betrayal and is currently expressing his frustrations. With Makoto in the hands of an unknown organization, he'll need Majima to do the grunt work of finding her, so he can't kill him just yet. It's also revealed that Sagawa has no idea who she is or why Shimano wants her dead. Nishitani is the closest thing to a lead right now. Sagawa tells Majima to interrogate his men at his family office. He warns him that he's running out of luck and needs to produce results soon. Majima tracks down the Kijin clan's family office, and after beating up the goons inside, the only information they give him is the name of a detective who knows Nishitani. Majima arranges a meetup with him on a bridge. Detective Billiken agrees to let Majima see Nishitani, but first he must do him a favor. He will take him if Majima can win 3 fights in an underground fighting ring. After he wins, Billiken arrests him. In the police station, he bribes the guard on duty a generous amount to put Majima in a specific holding cell. Inside, he sees Nishitani relaxing. Majima wants some answers, but Nishitani is more interested in finishing their fight. He's in no hurry since the jail is the best safe house in the country. It's clear that he won't say anything till the two finish. Majima prevails, officially winning this time. Nishitani tells him the organization is called the Nikkyo Consortium, which is totally a word I knew existed and didn't have to spend a long time re-recording my lines because I kept saying consortium. They are an underground organization that has ties with the Tojo clan. The president is a man named Masaru Sera. He gives Majima the location of where the consortium is waiting, in a place called the Benten Inn. Unexpectedly, he decides he'll help Majima get Makoto back from the consortium. He just exits the jail, since I guess he pays them enough that he can just come and go as he pleases. Before they can leave, they are startled by some gunshots. Billiken stumbles in and tells them to run. The guard emerges with his gun drawn, revealing he has been promised more money by killing all of them. He doesn't fall over and guards Majima, giving him some parting words. The Yakuza are all meant to die eventually, so enjoy everything while you can, and live life to the absolute fullest. The guard empties his entire gun into Nishitani, but the man still remains standing. He tells Majima to run and save Makoto so his death won't be in vain. Majima reluctantly agrees and heads out, while Nishitani approaches the guard. Back on the streets of Sotenbori, he runs directly into Sagawa, who's definitely lost his patience. Majima tells him the details of everything that happened in the jail. Sagawa decides to accompany Majima to the inn since he doesn't want him making any more movements without his knowledge. The two head to the inn, which seems to be located in a red light district. Once they get into the building, they decide to split up. After fighting his way through the floors, he comes to the top where the man in the white suit, Masaru Sera, is waiting. Majima asks where Makoto is, but Sera reveals that he'd already sent Makoto away with a trusted ally. He then asks Majima a series of questions, wondering what Makoto means to him. Sera finally asks, "Did you fall in love with her?" Majima says that's enough with the speculations and demands to know where Makoto is. So I guess that's a yes. He will tell Majima, but first he must prove himself with yet another fighting test. I guess beating everyone up in his organization wasn't enough. Sera proves to be a very tough battle, but Majima is able to win. He asks Sera why everyone is interested in her. He tells him about the empty lot and the real estate deals going on in Kamurocho. He gives Majima his gun, saying that it would help Makoto more if he kept Sagawa in Sotenbori. But if he really wants to know, he can shoot him and take the business card out of his pocket of the other real estate company. Majima doesn't get much of a choice before Sera is shot from behind by Sagawa. Luckily, it seems Sagawa didn't hear too much of the conversation and takes the business card from Sera's suit. Majima sees the card is from the Tachibana Real Estate Company, and the agent is someone by the name of Kazuma Kiryu. Sagawa says they will be heading to Kamurocho to get her immediately. Earlier that day, Kiryu and Oda arrive in Sotenbori. Oda explains that he and Tachibana used to work in the city. They were a small-time crime organization who did the dirty work for the Omi family. Oda sends Kiryu to one of their contacts in the city while he takes care of an errand. He heads to the meeting spot in a shady video store. The owner takes Kiryu to a room in the back where they can wait for the call. In the meantime, the chatty owner gives Kiryu a little history on Tachibana. He tells Kiryu that he used to work with Oda before Tachibana even joined up with them. Tachibana got into some altercation with Oda and his gang and easily fought them all at the same time. Afterwards, Oda tracked him down and practically begged Tachibana to lead them. Oda shows up and the owner excuses himself. He laughs about the story since the owner is known to exaggerate highly. Sera calls them and states Makoto is ready to be picked up. The two make their way to the inn. Kiryu heads into the inn as Oda keeps watch outside. He meets up with Sera and hands him the business card. Sera informs him that he's in contact with Kazuma, who helped orchestrate everything. She is shortly escorted in. She makes one request of Kiryu that he help her get rid of the land. She doesn't care about the money since too many people have died for this ground. Outside, Oda beckons the two to a nearby taxi. Unexpectedly, Makoto reacts to Oda's voice and is startled but gets into the car. Oda introduces himself, but Makoto says nothing and appears very uneasy. On the freeway driving back, they see a lot of cars following them. In one of the cars is Shibusawa. He coldly shoots the taxi driver and speeds off, letting his men take care of them. Oda takes the wheel and hands Kiryu a gun so that way they can be defended. And I'm sure all of the guys are trained stuntmen who know how to fall out of a moving car since Kiryu has never killed anyone. After shooting a good portion of them, Oda is able to exit the freeway since now it is way too dangerous. They hide out in a building under construction. Oda is unnaturally aggressive to Makoto as he leaves to check the rest of the building. Makoto reveals she does know Oda, but before she can say any more, he returns, holding them both at gunpoint. He holds Makoto hostage, saying he cannot let her and Tachibana meet. Makoto then stabs him with a hidden blade in her cane. Kiryu is able to disarm Oda and takes the gun, demanding answers. Makoto asks if Oda has a tattoo of a bat on his arm, and Oda reluctantly shows it. Makoto says she recognizes his voice as the man who abducted her and sold her into the prostitution ring. Oda explains that the tattoo was their mark for their gang. He took any kind of work he could being an immigrant from China. This included conning and selling girls off, and Makoto was unfortunate to just be one of his victims. He had met up with Tachibana shortly thereafter. Sometime later, they're watching a news segment of war orphans from China. One of the orphans they showed was Makoto, who Oda recognized. Surprisingly, Tachibana also recognized her, and her mother. Tachibana and Makoto are siblings! Oda wanted to keep this secret hidden, and took a gamble to sell them to the Shibusawa family. It is at that moment Shibusawa's goons are heard entering the building. Kiryu knows there will be no way to get Oda out with his injured leg. Oda tells Kiryu to tell Tachibana everything, and that he will hold off the family as best he can. Kiryu trusts him and hands his gun, and takes Makoto out another way. He fights some soldiers, and is able to escape before Shibusawa himself shows up. A little later, Oda has been fatally shot and beaten, but is still alive. Shibusawa gives him one more chance to tell them where Makoto is, but Oda says he doesn't know anymore.
大金払ってやったのに下手打ってな。まあ、下手打ったのはお前もだ。
Kiryu and Makoto rest in a hotel. She takes this time to tell Kiryu about her past. Tachibana left his family at 15 to go to Japan. All she knew was that he was in Osaka. When she got older, she went to find him and got caught up with Oda's gang. He'd lied to her, saying he knew her brother. She sobs that everyone from her parents to Lee ended up dying one way or another, protecting or guarding her. Kiryu understands the hardships in her life. However, she cannot fear taking the next step forward. Life will throw many obstacles in her way, and it's up to her to keep going. He'll take her to where she wants to go, whether that's to see her brother or into hiding, but she must choose. Makoto, with new resolve, agrees to go to Kamurocho. The two are able to get back to Kamurocho safely. Kiryu wants to make sure that Tachibana isn't in trouble since he has not been responding to the calls. He asks the homeless man to house Makoto for a bit while he checks on things. In Little Asia, he sees that Tachibana is undergoing more dialysis and seems to be getting worse. Kiryu informs him of Oda's betrayal and sacrifice. Tachibana tells Kiryu more details about his own history. After losing his arm, he met up with Kazama. It turns out Kazama gave the idea to Tachibana to start the real estate company. He needed a way to steal the land to stop Dojima from becoming any more powerful. Under his leadership, Dojima would lead the Tojo clan to ruin. Tachibana is hesitant to see her, fearing she hates him for all the trouble he caused. He sobs that it's his fault she lost her vision since she was looking for him.
桐生さん、私は妹に、シャオちゃんに会いたいです。
もうすぐ会える。彼女はあんたを恨んでなんかいねえ。だが今もあんたの助けが必要だ。
Before they are able to leave, Dojima's goons burst in. Kiryu easily beats them all and the two quickly escape. Outside, Kiryu is shot multiple times by a man on the roof. Ducking into a nearby stairwell, Tachibana knows who the shooter is. It is Lao Gui, the deadliest hitman in China. Tachibana is certain that it is Lao Gui who killed the man at the beginning of the game and set this whole thing in motion. Lao calls out that he was only ordered to take Tachibana in and not kill him. With Kiryu in a wounded condition, Tachibana freely gives himself up in order to save him. Kiryu tries to follow but is unable due to his injuries and passes out. He awakens with his wounds bandaged. Elder Chen has saved Kiryu. He tells him that Oda's betrayal went further as he told Shibusawa of the dialysis. He has a debt to Tachibana for all he's done for their community. They saved Kiryu as he's the only man who can get Tachibana back. He takes this time to also inform Kiryu about how Makoto ended up with the land. It seems their grandfather bought up a large amount of property in the developing city. After the war, he was forced to sell them off, but kept one central piece for the rest of his family. Kiryu heads out despite not being healed 100%. Not like it really shows considering how much running he does. Right outside the community, he is confronted by more Dojima goons. Dojima has had enough of Kiryu's interference and has decided to go against upper management and reissues the hit. This time, Nishiki is with them. Nishiki says that Kuze is currently torturing Tachibana for any information regarding Makoto. The goons taunt Nishiki, saying this is his only chance to prove any loyalties left to Dojima, and that he can rise further than Kiryu ever could. They'd even let him take all the credit for the kill. In a turn of events, Nishiki states he's done with all of this conflict. Whether or not Dojima gets the land means nothing anymore. He'd rather die than continue without his kyodai. Refusing to give up on their brotherhood, he removes his top to show off his unfinished carp tattoo. Kiryu does the same, and the two of them fight. After the battle, they head to the homeless camp to meet up with Makoto and explain the situation. Elder Chen calls Kiryu, stating they found out where Tachibana is being held, in an empty building next to the lot. Kiryu and Nishiki set out to rescue him. Tachibana is holding out as best he can from the torture, most of which involve a sledgehammer. Unexpectedly, he ends up laughing at Kuze, knowing he's more desperate for information since he is running out of chances. Kuze decides to stop the torture for now since Tachibana dead gives them nothing. Kuze's own men are even starting to doubt his leadership, thinking the guy's gone soft. As he unties Tachibana, he smirks at one of the thugs. Kiryu and Nishiki burst in at that time. Seeing the condition of Tachibana, Kiryu fears he's too late, and another vicious fight between him and Kuze begins. Unfortunately, Tachibana is barely holding on, and Kiryu begs him to hold on a little longer just so he can see his sister. He carries Tachibana out of the building to the empty lot. Nishiki has just returned with Makoto, who is finally able to meet him. Unfortunately, it's too late, as Tachibana has died from his wounds. We return to Majima. He has finally made it to Kamurocho and has been wandering the streets for any information on Makoto's whereabouts, and shows very little success. Sagawa grows frustrated that Majima isn't finding any new leads. Majima suggests going to Shimano for help, but Sagawa says right now they are on their own as they're not even supposed to be in the city. He informs Majima that Shimano and the Omi Alliance have been in talks negotiating a deal with the empty lot. Shimano will sell the land to the Omi so they can invade Kamurocho with the Tojo clan severely weakened. The alliance will help ensure that Shimano becomes the head of the Tojo clan. With no other leads, Majima continues to wander the streets. It isn't long before some Shimano thugs recognize him and confront him. They tell him that Shimano would like to see both him and Sagawa. The two then head to the Shimano family office to meet with the big man himself. That is a lot of fugu for one bite. Shimano is curiously in a good mood seeing both of them. Sagawa confesses the whole situation, but Shimano seems unsurprised. He reveals he knew Majima couldn't go through with it, and he only ordered the hit so Majima could keep her safe and away from Shibusawa's men. This way, he could secure the empty lot for himself. He wanted Majima to build trust with Makoto so that she would agree to sell the land to him, hoping she would want to keep Majima safe out of love. When the Dojima family began fighting each other, Shimano could wait and see who shows up to the fight, which includes Sera, who is still alive and currently in Kamurocho. He gives Majima another mission. This time it's to bring Makoto to him to negotiate a deal. He will even let Makoto be with Majima after the deal is done, and even reinstate him into the clan. He tells Majima to find Nishikiyama, who is Kiryu's sworn brother. Majima only sits in stunned silence with the revelation that he is nothing more than a pawn to Shimano. Later, he wanders the streets in a funk, furious that he let himself get manipulated so easily. He doesn't even see that he runs into a couple drunk guys. They decide to viciously beat him up, and Majima just lets it happen, saying he's done with everything. Once they finish, he finds new resolve and decides to find and save Makoto at all costs. He heads to the Kazama family office to see if Nishikiyama is there. The guards inside refuse to tell him anything, but before a fight breaks out, Kashiwagi enters, letting them all know that Majima would easily destroy them. He refuses to tell Majima about their whereabouts and instead challenges him to a one-on-one battle on the roof. Kashiwagi also proves to be a formidable foe to Majima, but he is still able to win. With Kashiwagi beaten, another soldier tells Majima Nishikiyama is at Serana to save his boss from losing an eye. Inside the bar, he finds him. The two have a short chat, but Nishikiyama refuses to say anything more, and they fight. I feel really bad that Reina's bar is getting wrecked so much. After the fight, Reina comes to his aid, saying Makoto is no longer with either of them, as she has disappeared. Nishikiyama confirms that after her brother's death, she vanished from the homeless camp, and neither one knows where to. Majima leaves the bar and heads to the last place she was seen, the empty lot. By chance, once he arrives, he sees Makoto on the roof of a nearby building and immediately rushes to her side. He's surprised to see her walking without her cane. Her eyesight is returning. She's not able to see completely clearly, but she can discern objects now. Majima tries to explain that Shimano would just want the land from her and she could just sell it to him and she would remain safe. However, she coldly states she doesn't care about her own life anymore and she only wants vengeance. She wants the 3 lieutenants and Dojima dead. She's even willing to give the land to Majima as payment to kill the men. Majima refuses since he knows that she should not go down that road and it wouldn't solve anything or even make her feel better. Because of his rejection, she no longer wants anything to do with him, and tries to leave. But her eyesight is not fully returned, and so she doesn't have her balance just yet. Majima asks if they can just talk it over with some takoyaki. Makoto agrees on the condition that he leaves her alone as soon as they are done. They find a roadside stand where a nice older woman prepares fresh takoyaki for them. She comments that the two of them make such a great couple, and Makoto has a brief realization of how much he has helped her, and sings his praises. They eat in a nearby park. Unfortunately, Makoto is unconvinced and doesn't divulge her plans any further. She instead asks for another plate and Majima agrees to get it for her. When he returns, Makoto has already left and a homeless man approaches him. He tells Majima that she asked him to come to the roof they were just at the following evening. The next day, Majima heads to the roof and waits. He is approached by some of Shibusawa's thugs. They tell him Makoto has already talked to Shibusawa and agreed to a deal. She even asked them to take care of Majima since he would try to stop her. Now pissed, Majima fights them all and demands to know where they're meeting. The thug tells them they are meeting in a rooftop terrace at the Sebastian building. Wasting no time, Majima heads to the building. On the terrace, Makoto is greeted by the 3 lieutenants, Lao Gui and Dojima himself. She offers Dojima can have the land for free if he agrees to have his 3 lieutenants killed for the murder of her brother.
それで
あなたの手下の首を3つ私の前に並べてください堂島組長
Dojima not only rejected the deal, but also had a backup plan. The rest of the land around the lot has already been bought up. They can easily start the building process as scheduled as long as the owner of the land doesn't come to claim. If she did, they would have a problem. But she can't claim the land if she's dead. Majima fights his way past the goons guarding the door. As soon as he bursts in, Makoto is shot by Lao Gui and collapses. The 5 men take their leave and Majima tries to confront them. Now completely enraged, Majima reveals his tattoo and unleashes the mad dog inside, all easily beaten. He checks on Makoto and sees she's still breathing. She cries that she wasn't able to do anything and has only created more trouble for him. She apologizes to Majima again before falling unconscious. Before hope is lost, Seta arrives, now sporting a limp. He tells his men to get her to the hospital at once, and to take Majima along.
復讐でも何でもお前の望みを俺が叶えとるからせやから頼む頼む
After some time, the doctor steps out, saying the surgery was a success, but she is still very weak and hasn't regained consciousness. Seta informs Majima that he'll transfer her to a more secure location. He asks what he plans to do now. Majima says he can't let the Dojima family continue their horrid actions for this land and vows to stop them any way possible.
せやから俺が全部しまいにしたる
At the same time, in the Dojima family headquarters, Shibusawa is officially named the new captain of the family. He states their first task is to deal with Kazuma and his betrayal against Dojima. He asks for permission to start destroying Kazuma's family, and Dojima agrees immediately. At the empty lot, Kiryu meets up with Nishiki. They are still in the dark with Makoto's whereabouts. Kiryu then gets beeped by a strange number telling him to call. It's revealed to be Seta, who asks him to meet up in Little Asia. Inside the restaurant, Seta informs Kiryu of the situation up to this point. He tells him that Makoto is safe in a boat in Tokyo Harbor. Unfortunately, Shibusawa will most likely come after him now. With the empty lot in the consortium's hands, Seta could become the next chairman of the clan. Now they can only wait to see if Makoto will wake up soon. He advises that Kiryu should leave town for a while and let everything blow over. Kiryu goes to West Park to meet with Nishiki. He informs him that the Dojima family are on the move to attack the Kazuma family office. Kiryu rushes to the family's defense. Surprisingly, only Kuze stands outside the building. He ordered all of his men to assist with the assault on the consortium so no one interrupts their fight. It's time they settle the score for real. It's a brutal fight, but in the end, Kuze cannot win and finally accepts his defeat. He tells Kiryu that Shibusawa is already attacking the consortium at the harbor. They know Makoto is still alive and will not stop till everyone is killed. Kiryu and Nishiki head out to defend the boat. Majima walks the streets of Kamurocho in a rage. He is approached by the 3 douchebags who beat the crap out of him earlier. This time, he shows off his strength and takes them down super easily. After the fight, he is approached by Sagawa, who is wondering why he's not looking for Makoto. Majima responds that he's after the Dojima family and Makoto is down. Sagawa tries to intimidate him, but Majima is through with his torment. He threatens Sagawa that if anyone should try to kill her, he will be there to stop it, even if it's Shimano himself. Sagawa realizes that the mad dog has awakened, and he lets him go, knowing he wouldn't be able to stop him even if he tried. Majima arrives at the Dojima family office. He introduces himself to the guards and throws down his challenge.
誠から伝言を預かってきたおせっかいな殺し屋じゃ
At the same time, Shibusawa's family has made it to the harbor. It seems Seta hasn't been seen on the ship, but Shibusawa cannot wait any longer and orders his men to attack. A car shows up and startles the attacking forces. Out steps Kiryu and Nishiki, both ready for battle. Shibusawa divides his forces to attack the boat and Kiryu. As the men approach the boat, Seta's forces ambush them and a firefight ensues. Before Kiryu and Nishiki can get ready for the battle, 2 trucks burst into the scene. The cavalry, led by Kashiwagi, arrives to assist the fight. He tells Kiryu to go into the boat and leave the outside guards to him and his men. The 2 men fight their way through the many rooms on board. When they are ambushed by some troops with guns, Nishiki tells Kiryu to go on ahead. He knows out of the 2 of them, Kiryu is the only one who can win against Shibusawa. Kiryu reluctantly agrees and heads out to face the boss, after beating up some more elite guards, of course. He soon makes it to the top deck where he finds Shibusawa waiting with the doctor and Makoto. Back with Majima, he is so pissed at the situation that he is eager to fight all who come and try to stop him. None of the remaining Dojima guards are a match for him as he battles through the office, destroying just about everyone and everything in the process. Finally, in a meeting room, he is approached by Owano, who seems to know everything about him. Majima remembers him from the rooftop and knew that the 2 of them would eventually face each other. It was just this look right here. The 2 men discuss Awano's philosophy about money being the true king of the Yakuza world. Majima represents the old ways with strength and passion. Awano is rather impressed that Majima can still make it this far on the old ways and reveals his tattoo of Momotaro. He expresses his gratitude that Majima has made him leave his comfy lifestyle and fight once again. Majima shows off his Hanya tattoo, ready to take him down for ruining so many lives for a tiny patch of concrete. Awano, not having fought in a while, still proves to be a strong opponent for Majima, and the 2 have another brutal fight. Eventually, he cannot keep up with Majima and has to concede defeat. Awano finally understands that his way of getting to the top can only get so far without the fists to back it up. Majima reflects that the men who gave their lives for him and how they were all fools for it, but the fact that they kept going despite everything made them the best of the best. The door opens, and Lao Gui steps in with his pistol and shoots at Majima, but Awano shields him. He fires several more times at Awano, who is amazingly still standing. He's pissed that Lao Gui interrupted their conversation and tries to attack him. Instead, Lao Gui uses long needles to stab Awano to death. Dojima steps out and shows little remorse for having to kill his own lieutenant. He is unconcerned with the situation since Lao Gui is the deadliest hitman and only Dojima can afford him. Majima vows to destroy them both. Dojima leaves so the 2 can fight uninterrupted. The assassin definitely lives up to his name. He uses an arsenal of weapons such as needles, swords, and pistols. It's a good thing Majima has his bulletproof skin on. Eventually his weapons run out, and he proceeds to use his fists to continue the fight. Lao Gui is eventually defeated and is thrown into Dojima's office. Dojima pulls out a gun and misses a shot at Majima, who just tells him to wait his turn. Before he can fire again, his gun is shot out of his hand by none other than Seta. Seriously, there's 100% accuracy for shooting things out of hands than headshots. Back on the boat, Shibusawa admits he underestimated Kiryu. He sends the doctor and Makoto away, stating there's no rush to kill her since it's just down to the 2 of them. He doesn't even really care about the other players at this moment since Kazuma's plan only succeeds if Kiryu wins. He personally wants to be the one to destroy Kazuma's legacy, disagreeing with his methods and ideology. Power is everything, and Kazuma is too weak to seek it. Kiryu, angered by this, thinks it's a very trivial reason to destroy so many lives. Shibusawa explains that his father was part of the Japanese government, but his boss made him the fall guy of a corruption scandal. It ended with him taking his own life. He sees that building a world based on ideals and talent can never happen. He will forge a path by himself, and if that means Kazuma must die, so be it. The Yakuza have written their names in others' blood. He wishes now to write his name in Kiryu's blood. He removes his top to show off his dragon tattoo. Kiryu does the same, as only one dragon can exist in the family. He's ready to give Shibusawa the war he wants. Shibusawa shows he's the strongest of the 3 lieutenants as they battle across the boat. He uses his full strength to fight against Kiryu as the 2 viciously continue to attack each other. But finally, after a powerful blow, Shibusawa is defeated. He refuses to quit, saying that Kiryu should just kill him, otherwise he'll just come back and finish what he started. Kiryu is angered and continues to pummel him, and he goads him, saying his death should be a very easy choice. Before Kiryu can deliver the final blow, he is tackled by Nishiki. Nishiki pleads with Kiryu that he is not a killer and that he shouldn't start now. They need to rise the ranks together like they promised each other. Kiryu agrees and refuses to kill. Back with Majima, he wants to save Makoto, but Dojima will have to die. Sera advises against this, as even Makoto really doesn't want this, nor would she want Majima to go through with it. She would feel hurt about the action, and it wouldn't bring the happiness she would rather have. Sera tells him that Makoto is awake. Dojima is horrified to hear this news as Sera confirms he's the new owner of the empty lot. Sera wants to keep the assassin alive to hold over Dojima to keep him in check. Lao Gui's testimony is all the police will need to bring Dojima to ruin. Majima reluctantly agrees and gets up to leave. Sera stops him and tells him he has one more assignment. He hands him his gun, saying Shimano must take responsibility for the traitor in the Tojo clan. Outside Shimano's office, he meets Sagawa. He tells him that Shimano is currently in a meeting with the head of the Omi headquarters. They're discussing details of when the Omi can start moving in. Majima breaks the news that the consortium has the land now. Sagawa is disappointed and sees that Majima has been ordered to kill Shimano. He doesn't try to stop him, but reflects how they had their ups and downs. Majima says nothing and moves on. He bursts into the room, surprising Shimano, letting him know that the new boss, Sera, has told him to deal with whoever's trying to sell the land of the Omi Alliance. Sera accepts that Shimano is innocent if he can provide proof, however. He points the gun as if to shoot Shimano, but instead places it on the table, letting him know that no matter what happens, he's a family man and is loyal to him. Shimano tests that loyalty, asking if Majima will die in his stead, to which he says he's willing, only asking him to tell his Kyoda Saejima that he's sorry. Shimano quickly aims the gun at the Omi man and kills him. He tells Majima to report that the empty lot and the Omi have nothing to do with him. The Shimano family has only suffered a small setback and will rise again. Until then, he could really use a man like Majima at his side. 1 month later, at a meeting in the Tojo clan headquarters, it's revealed that Kuze and Shibusawa are currently in police custody, and Dojima is no longer a part of the revitalization project. Sera is also named the next clan captain, and is officially put in charge, cementing that he will be the next chairman. Meanwhile, Kiryu visits Kazama in prison. Kazama apologizes for using Kiryu the way he did. He's about to tell him something, but it seems Kazama already knows. We find out what he was going to say in Reina's bar, where Kiryu sits wearing a new outfit. Nishiki bursts in, asking when did he get reinstated into the Dojima family. Despite Kazama's discouragement, Nishiki doesn't understand why Kiryu would go to Dojima's family, considering that he's not exactly the biggest fan of Kiryu right now. He explains that he owes it to all the people whose lives were ruined to set it right. He needs to set out on his own. Kazama's family would not give him the experience he really needs to correct the course. He puts on his jacket, and this will become his signature suit for the rest of the series. Nishiki voices his displeasure at it, but Kiryu says it fits him better. He takes the time to sincerely thank his friend for all his help. Nishiki just tells him to buy him dinner and they can call it even. Kiryu agrees, though he doesn't have much cash. Elsewhere, Majima, now sporting his signature look, chats with Sagawa. He asks him if he's done with class. Majima says he just wants to enjoy the pleasures of life and live crazier now. Sagawa offers him one last cigarette as the two reflect on their time. Majima states it'll be good not seeing him again after everything. Sagawa laughs and Majima leaves. But before he does, he gives him thanks. Even being a pain in his ass, Majima still learned resolve and tenacity from him. Sagawa bids him farewell, and as soon as Majima turns the corner, 3 men from the Omi Alliance approach him. He sighs that they work fast and turns to go with them, indicating he will be dead soon. We catch up with Makoto and the doctor being harassed by 2 thugs. Makoto has now regained her vision entirely and smacks one of the men when he gets too handsy. The doctor runs to get help as the 2 focus on her. The trio are approached by Majima, and the 2 men refer to him as boss. They tell him they found the perfect girl for him to have fun with. All Majima can do is stare at Makoto, who doesn't recognize him. The 2 men try to introduce him, but Majima punches them both. It's also funny that no one seems to be bothered by this and continue to walk around them. Makoto is confused, but seems to recognize something. The man approaches the two of them, demanding to know if Makoto is hurt. She refers to him as Sensei and explains that Majima actually saved her. He instead takes the man aside. He asks if he's seeing her, but he just says he's her doctor. He directly asks if he loves her, and if he would do what it takes to keep her safe. After some time, the doctor agrees that he does love her, and will tell her soon.
俺は嘘が大嫌いやで。
嘘じゃない。彼女に話したことさえないが。
なら、はよ言うてやらんかい。で、そばでちゃんと見とけや。しっかりせえ。
The doctor rushes to Makoto's side to make sure she's alright. She is wondering who the man was since his eye looked so sad. She asks the doctor what they talked about, and the doctor finds his courage and asks her on a date, which she agrees. She takes one last look at Majima before he disappears into the crowd. The credits roll, but we cannot forget about post-credit scenes! Makoto walks to the empty lot with some flowers to pay respects to her brother. She lays them on the ground and speaks to him that the conflict is over. She thanks all of those who helped the both of them, but knows there was one man who helped her the most, but she never saw his face or even knew his name. After a short prayer, she hears chimes in the ground. She digs in the dirt and finds a small package. Inside is her watch she discarded earlier. She thanks Majima, as she knows he's the only one who could have put it there. Majima walks the streets of Kamurocho and stops as soon as he sees someone walking in his direction. It's Kiryu. The two men finally meet. Majima decides to greet him with a very distinct Kiryu-chan! And he will call him that for the rest of the game series. And that is the story of Yakuza 0, the official beginning of the Kiryu saga. Thank you all so much for joining me on my long, overly drawn-out explanation of the plot of Yakuza 0. I will be back to complete the other games that I have completed, probably at some time before the end of the year. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Take care!